Welcome to In Depth with Academia. I'm Richard Price, CEO of Academia.edu, and today we're diving into, a pretty perplexing and timeless question. Do souls exist? That's actually the title of the paper I'm presenting, written by Suresh Soni. And right away, let's remember, I'm here to neutrally explore this research and, give you the lay of the land, not to try and convince you of anything. So let's just see where this journey takes us. So, what's the core question here? Obviously, it's about the existence of souls, but it's not just a yes or no kind of thing. The author, Suresh Soni, starts from his own deeply personal and really unusual experience, an encounter that left him wondering if he communicated with the spirit or soul of his dead father. And from there, he plumbs the depths of human consciousness, mystical experiences, and what it even means to ask whether souls are real. Why is that significant? Well, honestly, who hasn't at some point wondered what happens after death, or whether there's something more to us than just our, neurons firing? If you've ever felt that nagging sense of, is there something more? This paper is right up that alley. So, what actually happened to Soni? He recounts sitting in his room on a full moon night just after the Hindu festival of Raksha Bandhan, when suddenly he was overwhelmed by a vivid and powerful sensation, a feeling of his father's presence, and, here's the wild part. He felt compelled to write a poem, not in his own language but in Urdu, his late father's tongue, a language he didn't actually know how to write. That's really the crux. The episode was so real, so comforting, and so out of this world that it shook up everything he thought he understood about the mind and consciousness. Soni's mother, too, interpreted the timing and feeling as spiritual, an omen, perhaps, and eerily, she herself passed away peacefully soon after. This wasn't an isolated story either. He collected responses and interpretations from people around the world, some who took it as evidence of real spiritual contact, and others, more on the skeptical side. But Soni doesn't stop at his own story. He opens up the question, are these incidents hallucinations, products of the subconscious, or is there, in some way, a reality to the spirit world? Are they tricks of the mind constructed to comfort us against the fear of death, or do they hint at something genuinely otherworldly? And it's worth noting the paper doesn't preach. It just gives you a buffet of cultural, scientific, religious, and philosophical interpretations. For example, he discusses how mystical or spiritual experiences have been recorded throughout history in all cultures, sometimes leading to the founding of entire religions. Yet the modern rational world often chalks them up to brain functions, subconscious memory, or pure coincidence. Still, these experiences are so vivid and so emotionally charged that to the people who have them, they're more real than, say, a dream or an imagination. A lot of the discussion comes down to the limits of human perception and consciousness. Soni draws from Vedic philosophy, which talks about the Atman, or soul, science, neurology, and psychology. There's a deep look at how our minds process reality, how we filter experiences, and how, no matter how advanced we get scientifically, mystery persists. There's this idea that consciousness might be independent of the brain in some way, and he even mentions cases where people claim to have memories or skills from past lives. In all honesty, the paper kind of leaves you with more questions than answers. It points out that personal mystical experiences are hard to verify, impossible to repeat under lab conditions, the classic problem for science, yet also impossible for the people who have them to dismiss as mere fantasy. Soni maintains throughout that he's just earnestly searching, not pushing an ideology. It's that humility I find refreshing, again, not endorsing, just there's something very relatable about not knowing and being okay with sitting in the mystery. So what does this mean for you, the listener? Well, whether you're a skeptic, a believer, or just not sure, this paper encourages openness. Openness to mysteries we may never solve, and maybe, just maybe, a little more kindness towards viewpoints different from yours. If you or someone you know has had an experience that defies easy explanation, this research says you're not alone. And that in itself is strangely comforting, isn't it? Quick tangent. And this has nothing to do with souls, but have you ever walked into a room and just forgotten why you went, and wondered if future scientists will ever be able to study what's happening at that moment? Maybe it's just the universe deleting some code. Look, academic research doesn't hand you the ultimate truth. The best it can do is give you insights, perspectives, ways to reflect, and better questions. That's what Sonny's paper offers. A chance to wonder, to listen, and maybe, just for a moment, to breathe in the possibility of the unknown. Thanks for joining me today for this episode of In Depth with Academia. If you want to keep pondering the big questions, subscribe and keep that spirit of curiosity alive. Until next time, keep thinking, keep questioning, and, who knows, maybe keep an eye out for those subtle mysteries that make life so much richer.